Well, hello there, potato chips. It's wee Paddy from across the shuck, and I've got a video I've been really looking forward to making, but I wanted to use the knife a bit first before I made the video so that I could give you a true feeling on the knife and why I think you should buy it. This knife here that's in front of you, and we'll go through the knife in a minute, but this I've called this series is Meet the Maker, and it's where I've asked the people who have made the knives for me. This is a custom made knife. This young man's custom started about £75 for a good, honest, working knife, and they go up accordingly, but not stupid prices. These are prices that most of us could save up and afford to get. And you call it a custom. This is made by hand by this person. So it's completely legitimate custom made knife. Now, I asked him if he would give me a little just a little explanation of how you get into knives and whatever. And he really kindly typed me out this lovely little introduction to himself and where he's worked and how his knife progression has gone on till he comes to make things like this. So I'll tell you a little bit about him. Now, Stephen first became interested in knives when he was only 8 years old. And he was on a school trip to Kelham Island Museum in Sheffield. Kelham. And this is an old building where they show off an awful lot of what was going on with the steel in Sheffield going back in the day. So it was a museum, and it's where he first saw Graham Clayton and Roland Swindon, which were cutlers at the time, in their workshops, and he was intrigued by watching them working. And I could definitely identify like that. Watching a tradesman at work, whether it be an electrician, a knife maker, anybody that's good at their trade, just watching them ply that trade intrigues me. I could stand and watch a man, paint a wall all day if he's good at doing it. But, so, luckily for him, his dad, now I'm not sure what his dad done for a living, but I take it was something to do with probably steel or whatever. He wasn't a knife maker, I don't think. So his dad rented a workshop at Joseph Elliott's and Sons, Sheffield, which was, again, a huge building. The smaller parts of the building were rented. They rented off little rooms, offices, workshops, and a lot of the cutlers who were still remaining in Sheffield then. I mean, you're going back now to the cutlers from the 50s, 60s, 70s and 80s. They were working in this place called Joseph Elliott's and Sons. And he used to spend his school holidays there with his dad, and he'd walk around all the different, the old works that were there, the old cutlers. And his interest grew, and a few of the cutlers at Elliott's got to know him because he just was like a little 8-year-old boy running about, and they used to give him little tools and whatever and let him muck about in the workshops, and he'd move on to the next one. So he was really building up that love for what he's seen. It was his art. He was given little parts to have a go at making his own knife. So his dad and him, when he was 8-year-old, had a go at making his first folding knife. I can't imagine what it looked like. Obviously, if his dad was good, well, it would have been all right. But we can imagine what his first knife looked like. But it's something he made, and that passion has never left him since. So he became friends with many of the cutlers, and they knew him as well. And he set up a small workshop in his home using tools and parts given to him by these cutlers. And I'm going to name some of them as I'm going through this. And these were men that were revered Sheffield cutlers. They were the top of their game at Sheffield. The likes of, he started working for a man called Trevor Ablett. Now, if you're into traditional knives and you know anything about the Sheffield, Trevor Ablett was one of the probably greatest cutlers, one of the top cutlers anyway. There was a lot of them. And Sheffield has had a long, hundreds of years worth of cutlers. But Trevor Ablett was one of the more modern, if you like, the last generation of cutlers. And he went to start working with them when he was 14 years old. Weekends, assembling, hafting, and eventually into polishing and finishing. And they were making knives. Well, Trevor was making knives for Taylor's Eyewitness, Beckfield's, Bergen and Ball. And the reason he got there was because his dad knew Trevor. So his dad obviously had some sort of relationship with Trevor, got him a little weekend job, and he just loved it. He was just, his passion was now starting to increase the fact that he was helping make proper knives for companies. He also became friends with Stan Shaw, who is another huge name in the Sheffield cutlery industry. And I used to call and see him in the school holidays and spend hours watching him work. I have watched a video on Stan Shaw, and to say he's fast at making a knife and the process of making a knife, it's done before your eyes, before you even notice what he's doing. He forged his own steel. I mean, these are proper cutlers. And when he was 16, obviously through knowing cutlers and knowing the companies who they were making for, he got a job at George Iberson's and Co. And I'm sure you've seen them knives or you've heard of them. They're Sheffield knife makers. On Garden Street, and he worked alongside Peter King with Stan Shaw, John Watts, George Iverson and Co. At George Iverson and Co. And I also used to see Stan on his dinner breaks as he worked across the road from him. He would go over and just sit and watch him and try to pick up the tips from who this man's a master knife builder. If you go on YouTube, if I can find it, but if you just type in Stan Shaw Cutler, I think he's wee videos and you'll see the sort of conditions they worked in. The tiny wee grubby shops that were just muck and steel and dirt and just absolutely, it's just, for me, it's opening up another side of, is it the romance? It probably wasn't romantic on a cold winter's day, working in a brick building. There was nothing on the walls, just bricks. You know, it probably wasn't the warmest place to work, but that's where he plied his trade. That's where he learned how to do it. And he works in one of them little places now himself and is now making knives. He left Iberson's to go and work for Taylor's Eyewitness on Milton Street, Sheffield. And I'm naming these streets because if you're not from the UK, it's sometimes nice just to get the name of a street. And when you do see videos, you'll hear these streets being mentioned because it was a Sheffield industry built around knives and steel and things like that. So he went to work for Taylor's Eyewitness, and he worked for a friend who's known since he was a child, Frank Carr, who was a fantastic Bowie knife maker. So he was in with all these people that didn't just do, a lot of these men were making working slip joints, a working man's knife, and that's what was being sold to the masses. And they were going to the States, they were still going everywhere. Frank Carr, who was a fantastic Bowie maker, he left there and went to Taylor's. He left Taylor's and returned to Iberson's, and he worked his way up to become supervisor and became mentor to apprentices who were sent on. Knife making, I have inherited many cutler's tools, machines. One in particular is a dotting tool. When he worked for Trevor Eblett, he always said when he retired he could have the dotting tool. Now, I didn't ask him what a dotting tool was, and I'm not sure what it is. So if you do know, please put it down below. If not, I'll find out by the next video. He always said when he retired he could have it, and true to his word, he inherited that tool, amongst others given to him by his wife after Trevor has passed on. So today he aims to carry on traditional Sheffield knife patterns by hand using skills and techniques that he's learned from these past masters. And when Stephen's talking about past masters, he has worked with them, he's seen them work. And, you don't call somebody a master if they're not. It's not something that gets bandied about. You have to be a master cutler to get that name put in front of you. And he worked with some of the top of probably his father's generation and a wee bit beyond that. But so he grew up with that. So he knew everything he needed to know about knife making before he even started work at 16. He knew what to expect. He knew the work that's involved. And it's not just, these are not knives with somebody who just does reduction of steel. I mean, these are boys that just get fully involved and can do the whole process. Now, there's nothing wrong with stock removal. Don't get me wrong. It's a talent in itself. But these are more traditional knives. Anyway, So, we're 20 years of work and I'm being involved. What am I doing now? Where have I missed? I don't know about, that's about it. So he's been doing this for about 20 odd years. Just that last wee bit I missed. Anyway, that's a little bit about Stephen Cocker, and it shows you that from 8-year-old till now, he has just amassed an awful lot of knowledge, and he's now starting to. He was making knives for these companies that make mass-produced working knives. So now he's starting to go out on his own, and he's starting to not reinvent, but redo the patterns that he watched some of those old masters doing. And honestly, this, for somebody who's really just gone into the custom, look at this bone. Isn't that a beautiful green bone? But it's not, it's wood. This is actually called Vera wood, which is a green wood, but he has dyed it and he jigged it himself. I mean, these boys do everything themselves. He jigged this himself. And look at that jigging. That's not something that's come off a pattern. This is somebody who's just put the time in and scooped it out and sanded it down and dyed it and just makes an absolutely beautiful job. A lot of the Sheffield cutlers, when they're making Barlows, they have a smaller Barlow than what the American Barlows normally are. And I had seen this. I'd asked him to make me the knife, and I'd asked, this was going to be a paid venture. I'd asked him if I was going to make it. I told him who it was. I didn't want to just give him some old bluff. I told him who it was. I was making it. I was going to do a video of the knife when it came because I was promoting British knife makers, which I have been all this year. And I have found 3 super ones that are new to me. They might not be new to an awful lot of people, but they're also going to be coming on people's radars because I'm going to be buying more of the knives of the 3 that I've met so far because I like their product and I like them as people, which is really annoying when somebody's so clever. But anyway, look at this. And I've seen this bolster. It's like what I would call a rat's tail down there. You've got your line bolster at the top there. Nickel silver bolster, stainless steel and brass back spring. Just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. This is a handmade knife. Look at the blade centering. How lovely is that to see blade centering like that? Beautiful, beautiful knife. The blade itself is a high polished stainless steel. Now, the nice thing about this stainless steel, that this knife's made in Sheffield. You can see his logo there stamped into it. There we go. It's Stephen Cocker, Sheffield, England. So you're getting a knife that is made in Sheffield in some of the old buildings that these old masters would have worked in. So the history is behind this knife right from the start. Somebody like Stephen, who from 8-year-old has been going in that building, now has a little place in it himself, or he had. I'm not sure where he is now, to be honest. But do you know what I mean? He's still doing it the old traditional way with traditional tools, much like GEC does, but in a much smaller, a much smaller concern. It's just him. So, the steel is SF100 stainless steel. Now, I've never heard of it, and I haven't done a whole lot of research on it because it doesn't really matter to me. It's a stainless steel. It's a steel that's still made in Sheffield. This is a Sheffield-made steel and a Sheffield-made knife. That is just super. I just love that continuity right the way through the blade. Absolutely cracking. And it is, honestly, it is so shiny. You can see that there. Now, this knife is absolutely beautiful, but it is handmade. And when you open it up, there's tiniest gaps up here. They'll never bother me. That's just with it's under pressure when the knife is open, the spring's open. That's all it is. It'll never, ever bother. Look, this is one of the most solid knives I've ever had. It's about an 8 pull, which 8.5. It's a really, really strong pull, which I love in a pocket knife. I also like the high ricasso because when you're holding up here, the knife's not going to close on you. Not that this ever would. It's so well sprung. Sorry, I'm going to keep doing that because it's just beautiful. It's so well sprung. Look, I've not had one close on me. I don't know how long. But look at that. A beautiful, lovely deep swedge on it. There's our swedge nail nick. Long nail nick, just plain. but it's deep. You can really get your fingernail underneath there. Even if you've got no nails, you can get the stub in there to pull it open. Very easily done. A slight swedge on this side and on the other side, which again is not necessarily what you would get on Sheffield knives, on all the sort of mass-produced ones. So, to say I'm pleased, to say I'm over the moon with this knife, it really is an understatement. The only thing, and this is a nitpick, but I don't feel as if I could do that. When I got it, when I get most of my new knives, it didn't come particularly sharp, but that's besides the point. It had an edge on it. I always sharpen my knives anyway, as I think we all should. I like an 18 to a 20-degree bevel on all my pocket knives. It'll be between 18 and 20, depending on how thin the blade stock was. Now, this was a lovely blade stock. If I can show you, this is lovely and even, beautifully done. Up until I got up to the top, and you can see it's wider at the top. The blade actually got quite thick as I got to the top, and you can see beautiful all the way up, and a little bit thicker up here where the blade has been unevenly forged, for want of a better word. But look, that is the only problem I can find with this knife. It was a wee bit thicker at the point. Is that going to affect this knife? No, I am going to use this knife. This is a custom knife, and when you can get a custom knife handmade for you by a maker at the price that he's given these, or not giving them away, that's really, but he's doing it at a price, under £100, most of the knives are going to come in. Now, if you're going to add something special, blade steel, where it'll go up over 100, but most of his knives, £75 and up. You'll get you a basic working knife for £75. You can try out and see what he's got. You don't have to go all in. But most of the knives are in that 100, around the 100 and somewhere around there. Is this knife sharp? I'm just going to tell you. I put an edge on this, and this knife is like butter going through it. This is just a very reasonably priced steel. It takes an absolutely wicked edge. I don't need any more than that for a knife. It is stunning. So I'll let you have a walk around the knife once more before I go. I hope you've enjoyed this little venture into the new knife makers. Really, really nice. By the way, I'm videoing in a new place. I've got my wife has cleared out her office, what used to be her sewing room, and I've now got it as my knife room. I'll give you a little walk around during the week. So I'm sitting in a different position, in a different chair, and I'm finding it a bit difficult to get my hands. I've got to sort that out properly. But look at this beautiful knife. I am over the moon with it. Stephen actually gave me this. He didn't even charge me for it. And for a small business like his, I mean, he's making these, he's still working for other companies, making their knives and doing more of the little custom jobs of his own for that extra money. I can't thank him enough. It would never reflect my reviews, never would. If it wasn't good, if I didn't like this knife, I would have sent it back to Stephen and said, thank you very much, but I wouldn't be able to give you a good review. That's what I do. I don't rubbish knives. This is somebody's business, somebody's livelihood, and maybe what they think is great is not what I think is great. So I would never purposely be rude to anybody, unless it's a big major company. But for a custom knife maker, I would have just sent it back and said no, thank you. But the fact that I got it for nothing, the fact that the knife is absolutely stunning, I can fully recommend Stephen Cocker. And he's only going to get better. And the more customs he does, the more of these different bolsters that he does, just the better. Honestly, I'll be getting another one next year without a shadow of a doubt. And I've got another new maker's knife coming up. If you've seen the wee clip off them, I've done a wee quick video on them. Another new knife maker coming for you, and I'll do that before Christmas as well. Stephen Cocker's books are open. You can find him at Stephen_Cocker_Sheffield Knives. Go on Instagram, you'll see him there. You'll see he has lots of little videos and clips of the knives as he's making them, the different knives he's making. So you'll get a feel of what he does, and you can contact him through there. His books are open now. You're probably going to wait 12 weeks plus. But I'm going to leave Stephen to sort that out with you. I'll leave Stephen to sort prices out with you. You tell him what you want. He'll give you a fair price, whatever you want. But I recommend them definitely. Definitely. I will be having another one. I'll get a different blade shape. I'm going to maybe go for bone this time, or I might go for horn. So that's the joy of getting a custom maker. You can get another knife from him in a completely different style. I'll have a different bolster. I'll have, that's the joy of this for me. It's not just a PM2 and that's it. For me, the joy of having something like this from somebody, it's just beautiful. And he walked me through this. We were going to have a green jigged bone, but the bone he got, and when he dyed it, it didn't come out right. So I just said, you fix it. You do whatever you want. You know what I wanted. You fix it. And he came up with that wood. And I cannot tell you, I can't tell it's not wood. And I'm sitting in front of this with a big bright light. I can't tell it's not bone. It's just beautiful. Really, really stunning. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that video. Stephen, thank you so much for the gift to the channel. This will be well used. And I know that'll please you because you make knives to be used. This knife, you've kept at a price where I can use it without fear and enjoy it as a knife and not just something to sit in that drawer over there where I have a few like that. Don't get me wrong, I like them too. But I love to be able to have a knife that I can work with without fear. Ashley Harrison is one of my other makers that I've done this year. I've had 3 of his knives, exactly the same. I get them, I can use them. Now, be good. I'm away now, definitely. God, that went on a bit. Oh, it's only 20 minutes. Yeah, that was a quickie. Take care, everybody. Paddy's away for a wee cup of tea. Bye.